You. That is gorgeous. It is a beautiful day, you're right. Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. My name is Reverend Janet Ellis. I am, what am I? I'm here. I'm present. I'm in the space with you. Thank you. I appreciate that. With the little bit that Corey shared, I would like to share a little bit about me because I want you to get to know me. Because I'm coming back. So, my talk today is on waking up. Yeah, baby. Mine, 1986, I ran home to Mama. And I said, can I move home? I'm divorcing my husband. I've never lived on my own. I'm 30-something years old. And Mom said, only if you go to church. And I said, God, I'd do anything for room and board right now. So I showed up at Unity Church of Arlington. And I've been there ever since. And it saved my life. It saved my life. So, the process began in 86. I did not have a clue what I was doing. Extremely depressed, anxiety-ridden, all those beautiful little things that we put on ourselves, right? And it was because of the trauma experienced as a child. I know each and every one of us have experienced something, yet mine was mine, and I had to learn to deal with it. So, both parents were extreme alcoholics. My father died at 57 of cirrhosis of the liver. My mother died at he died at 54. She died at 57 of lung cancer. And at that moment, I was living with her, and I lost my best friend, my home, my mother, my everything. And I finally stepped out on my own for the very first time. In that moment, my world was very interesting, to say the least. So I started going to Unity, and I would sit in that back chair, and I think my head print is implanted on the back wall, sobbing. I sobbed. For 6 months, I'd show up on Sunday, and I sobbed. I didn't know what was going on. But I had been with my mom for 4 years before she passed, and I did a lot of work. And it was really funny, you guys. My mom and I were tight, but we tried to have our own personal lives. And so when they started workshops at the church, or they had book studies or groups coming together, I would find my group, she would find her group. And we found one Saturday, we were both hopping in our cars, running to the church, and we were in the same group and didn't even know it. So anyway, we had a lot going on. But one of my first things in my process was just trying to figure out who I was and what my life is about and why the heck I'm even here. Right? So, I'm trying to think of how I want to process this. Okay, I'm working in the corporate world, 27 years, data entry. Oh my God. I'm an extrovert, people. I didn't know it at the time, but I would get up from my cubicle and I'd run down the hall and talk to somebody, and I'd hear my boss go, Janet, get back to your desk. And I'd run back and do a little more data entry, and I'd run. So I realized at that point, I don't know why I'm here, why I'm doing this, and I need to get the heck out. So I had just married my beloved in 91. So I was at the work. I'd been working there 3.5 years. He'd been there a year and a half. Our paths never crossed. Small company. And I hung out at the vending machines, which is where his department was, but yet we never crossed paths. The day I got transferred from the marketing department to the engineering department, I'm in my cubicle displaying my Betty Boop paraphernalia. And this guy walks by and goes, Betty. And I said, no, Janet. And he went, oh. You're supposed to laugh at that, y'all. So needless to say, we picked up from there, and it was 31 years last week. Yeah, so anyway. So I went to him, and I said, it's sanity or money. And he went, you don't make enough money for that, so do what you got to do. And I left the company. I gave my notice and quit. And that was in 2000, January 1st. Computers didn't kill the world. We were all good, so I thought I may need to move on. So I decided I'd get healthy while I was waiting to figure out what I was going to do. So I went to a yoga center. It is the January, and it's raining and it's cold, and the yoga center's closed. I went, okay, this is not good. But there was a flyer on the window, and it had a list of upcoming workshops. And the very first one on there was called The Path, Creating Mission and Vision for Work and Life. And I went, okay, God, I get it. So I went home and I called the facilitator and I talked to her and I asked her what was it about, and she told me, and I said, it sounds pretty good. And she goes, so you're coming? And I said, oh, no, I can't do that. I don't have the money. I told you I'm not working. And she goes, so you need a scholarship? And I went, huh? And she said, well, come for the weekend. And I did the whole weekend, and I didn't pay a penny, and it changed my life. So much so that I ended up contacting the creator of the program, and I flew to San Diego and was licensed and certified to facilitate that workshop. So that's when I first realized that I have somewhat of a purpose in this world. And I needed to wake up to that purpose so bad. And at first, for me, I needed to wake up. I so needed to wake up. I was such a mess, you guys. There's an image. Picture this. I'm in my mother's home, in the guest room, on the bed, sobbing. Just sobbing to God, going, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? What's happening? What am I going to do? My life sucks. As I'm smoking a joint in my mother's house. You got it? And I was partaking in other things at the time. There's alcohol, the coke, the crank, all that fun stuff that I had to use to numb myself from previous experiences. And at the time, I didn't know that's what I was doing. We don't know, because we're not awake. You walk around today and look, how many people in this world are not awake? What are they going to do? What do we need to do? We need to wake up to the fact that we are it, people. We're the ones that are supposed to go out there and wake the others up. But in order to do that, I got to stay awake. And that was my big challenge, is staying awake after I woke up. Now, I'm on the bed, crying to God. Here I am again, same shit, different day. What am I going to do? Well, my God's kind of humorous, and he's got his own voice, and I heard way deep inside of me, what the hell are you doing? And I don't know what it was. It was not in my head, I know. It was not that voice. It was another voice. And I got up, and I took everything I had, and I flushed it down the toilet. And I hadn't touched it since. However, they don't tell you what's going to happen when you stop using that stuff that numbed you forever. I was a walking lunatic. Oh, man. And I couldn't describe it. It's like somebody cracked my chest open and was pouring alcohol on my heart straight. That's kind of weird, but, the pain was so intense. And I felt crazy. And I didn't know what to do. And so somebody said, go see a therapist. So I went and saw a therapist. Well, she was unhealthier than I was. So God love her. I found me another one. And so the process started. And so once I got the mission statement, which is, my mission is to ignite, encourage, and amplify authenticity in myself and others to help them wake up to their full potential. That's what I'm about. What you see is what you get. This is it. If I'm happy, you're going to know I'm happy. If I'm sad, you are really going to know I'm sad. Ask him. And if I'm angry, oh boy, that Leo in me knows how to rage a little bit. But there's also that strength, right? So the question is are you awake? And if you are, that's beautiful. And if you're not, you don't know that you don't know that you don't know, so it doesn't matter. Right? And that's okay. But in each and every one of us, as spiritual souls, know what we're here to do. The thing about it for me is to continue to learn and hear and be present to what is shared with me so that I can continue my path and stay awake. Man, I can fall asleep in a second. You guys, if I am emotionally injured in any way, I can end up shutting down so quick and going to the bedroom and shutting the door, and I'll tell them I'll see you in a few days. Yeah, it's easy to do, isn't it? God love him. He comes and says, come on, let's go somewhere. You'd feel better if you got up and get out. Go away. He'll try 2 or 3 times. We'll go out, get out, and he's right. Yeah. So the waking up started with the facilitating the workshop. And I was blessed in so many ways by that. Because I ended up getting hired through the Parenting Center in Fort Worth, and I spoke at 27 high schools in Tarrant County, talking to teenagers about the prevention of abuse. Physical, spiritual, sexual, all emotional, mental, all that fun stuff. And 8 years came and went, and I was in one of the classrooms one day, and I had done my last CPS report, and I couldn't do it anymore. And I ended up having an anxiety attack. And I didn't know that's what was happening. And I was in the classroom talking to the kids, and all of a sudden I looked at the coach and said, I don't feel too good. And he goes, oh my God, you don't look good. And he took me to the nurse's office. And she looks at her assistant and says, darling, get her a couple of baby aspirin to chew on. And then I saw her mouth and called 911 because they thought I was having a heart attack. Dadgummit. There was nothing wrong with my beautiful heart. It was my head. Yeah. So there's always that challenge. Always that challenge. Man, in my environment as a child, my dad beat my mom on a continuous basis. My safety net was under the bed and in the closet. And so for me to come out and be willing to open my heart up and trust other people and be in emotional contact with others and learn how to love openly was tough. But I did it because it's so damn important. And the day I realized that I was the one in my family that's breaking the generational cycle was the day that I thanked God that I was still here. Now, not to say I'm perfect by any means. Again, ask him. God love him. He's a precious gift of mine. I have 2 sisters that haven't talked to me in 6 years, and I have a brother that is slowly killing himself from alcohol. And yet, all I can do is show up and love them the only way I know how, from a distance, and come to peace with that which has not been easy. But it's a challenge, and it's part of my growth. And so when I'm willing, I'm real willing. And when I'm not so much. There are moments, as you well know, those moments of, I give up, I'm not doing this anymore. And then I hear in my voice, you know you're never going to go back. And I go, dang, I want to go back. I want to go back when I didn't know anything. I know, right? I wished. There are days. Please let me numb again. But I don't want to. I really don't want to. So I did the facilitating. I did guest speaking, and that was a part of my journey. Then what I really got one day, being in Unity, I love Unity. Unity has taught me so many things. And the belief and the guide and the directions I've gotten from the people that have crossed my path have been unbelievable. And then there came a point in time when I got involved with different religions. And I really wanted to learn about the other religions because I know that I am not it. Unity is not necessarily it for everybody. And I wanted to embrace them where they came from. You know, because who am I to tell a Catholic that it ain't worth, you know, you're not doing it right? What do I know? You know, and I've got a bunch of Christian friends that are amazing. Muslim friends. Buddhists that I adore. So anyway, I talked to my husband one day and I said, there's this class online. I just got an email for it. It's just starting. Interfaith ministry was just beginning, and this particular group was wanting to guinea pig some individuals, so I volunteered. 4.5 years of studies. Yeah. So I'd go, they'd assign the books, the homework, the paperwork, the test. All that was done on computer. And then they would say, go find this religion out in your community and have them teach you everything they know. And so my husband and I were at a Thai place one day for lunch. And there's this bulletin in the window about how they were robing the young boys at this temple, this Buddhist temple. And I went, oh, come on. We want to go. And in my excitement, my loudness, and everything else that comes out, we show up at this Buddhist temple, and all these cute little monks are walking around silently doing their stuff. And I'm going, I'm here. And I saw this one monk shake his head. Oh, my goodness. So I ended up, I had a teacher. I had to meditate every day for 30 minutes, and then 45 minutes, and then an hour, and then we went to 6. Yeah. But the blessing was in this learning of the meditation and the peace and all that the beliefs of Buddha, it was awe-inspiring. And I was blessed, as I was sharing with you earlier. I got to go to Thailand. They flew me to Thailand, stayed at Chiang Mai in the mountains with the monks for 8 weeks, and meditated my butt off. Among other things. Yeah, we were in Bangkok in the beginning, and then we drove to Chiang Mai and stayed there for a few weeks. They taught me how to let go of suitcases, clothing, makeup, all that fun stuff. Phone, iPad, computer. I didn't get to talk to him the whole time I was there. It was all about going within, not without. They built a temple in Bangkok that held 1 million. And one day I was there, we all came together. Now the biggest thing about this, wasn't about the 1 million people, is about the women from Thailand that were so excited. Y'all, this is kind of rude, but you know, they have holes you got to squat to go to the bathroom. Everybody keeps asking, do they have toilets for 1 million people? I said, that's not the point. I'm meditating with 1 million people, for gosh sakes. But what was funny is the 14 women I was with, I was the only American. There was Japan, China. None of us spoke the same language. But I'll never forget the first time I had to go into the bathroom and squat for the first time at that temple. And I opened the door, and they're all sitting there waiting to see. She did it. I learned how to meditate with the monks, and they're so excited because I knew how to squat. So anyway. So it's been amazing. And so I get to speak at different locations. My first experience was a funeral that I was asked to do. The mother was Catholic. The father was Buddhist. Mother was adamant about having a female minister. The minister in Fort Worth contacted me and said, they really need you, can you go? And I thought, well, I didn't say this out loud, it's my first funeral, you know. But I said, yes, I will come. And so I met the family. Their 27-year-old son had overdosed and died. So it was the most amazing experience I ever was involved with. I met the mother and the father. We connected. That was like 15 years ago. I got a call 2 weeks ago from the mother of this son. Haven't talked to her in the 15. We've tried to connect, but life has gotten in the way. She calls me and she says, I wonder if you remember me. And I went, oh my God, yes. You know, what a joy it is to hear from you again. Will you come see me? Sure, absolutely. What's it about? I want you to help me plan my funeral. She lives in Saxe. So 2 days ago, I was here. And I sat with her and her husband, and we talked. And she's telling me what she wants. And at the same time, you guys, this is the beauty of this, the being awake enough to realize that you have impacted somebody's life in some way makes you want to move forward with it. And she told me, and I knew this, her Catholic upbringing, the guilt that she still carries, the family dynamics that still burden her, she wants to let that go before she dies. So we'll be meeting once a week, learning together. I'm honored that she's asked me to do that. So I get to do different functions, weddings. Oh my gosh, they're the best. Especially the LGBTQ people, man. They have waited forever to be married. I'd much rather marry them than the others because they're just wanting it for the party most of the time. I love them all, but I'm just saying the essence and the heartfelt connection that's there doing their weddings is unbelievable. They are so awake in that moment, the longing they've had for that desire that they wanted themselves. So it started out with the facilitating workshops, and then it went on to the interfaith minister. I was ordained in 2016. And then I became a life coach because everything I did, I'm not a therapist, thank God, but everything I did was about coaching somebody. If it not teens, it was the parents of the teens or whoever. And so my life, I'm blessed. I am so blessed. And to have an opportunity to come and connect with people like you, like-minded people. Now, I love being able to do this. Now it energizes me enough to go out and meet somebody I'm not like-minded with and try to be nice to them, right? It's a challenge. It's always a challenge. But I'm glad I can do it. So as I processed and I kept doing the journey, I realized one day that I had a book in me. So I got published, and I published a book called Wake Up, Break the Generational Cycle, and Be Yourself. And that is when I lost the two sisters. They no longer have anything to do with me and haven't since then. But that's, that's part of the process. So there's a piece in here in the book I'd like to share with you. There's a guy by the name of Tim Madigan. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He was a very dear and close friend of Fred. Say it again. Fred Rogers. My brain just farted. Fred Rogers. Thank you, honey. Close friend of Fred Rogers. And he wrote this book about his relationship with Fred Rogers and how close they were. And the title of the book is I'm Proud of You by Tim Madigan. And it's his relationship with Fred Rogers. And I asked him, I had to find somebody to do the foreword in my book. You know how hard it is to ask somebody to do something nice for you? I called a few, they said no. But Tim Madigan stepped up. I'd like to read that and share that with you. In the fall of 1995, I met and became close friends with Fred Rogers, the icon of children's television and one of our culture's secular saints. It was a time of great inner pain for me, and from the first, Fred tried to coax it out into the open. He was trying to wake him up. He called the pain my furies. Anything mentionable is manageable, he would say. Or he would quote his good friend, the great Catholic writer Henry Nouwen. Anybody familiar with him? Oh, he's powerful. Who said, what is most personal is most universal. In other words, my anger, my sadness, my depression, my shame was not something bad, but part of my humanity. And in fact, what I most shared with other members of my species. A year after we met, Fred sent me Henry's latest book, The Inner Voice of Love, A Journey Through Anguish to Freedom. It was his diary of the time Henry spent recovering from an emotional breakdown. Fred told me that he thought it was one of his friend's finest books. It was his most personal, which is often the most universal. I am reminded of these things now after reading another book, this one by Janet Ellis. I wish Fred could have read it too. He would be as grateful for it as I am. Janet, like Henry, has gently reminded us by telling her own amazing story what it truly means to be human and that we are not bad because we suffer. We suffer because we are human. But the primal pain is unnecessarily compounded. One of the greatest of all human afflictions, I believe, is not that existential suffering, but the isolation and shame we feel as we work so hard to conceal the often messy truth of our insides from one another. Janet, like Henry and others, in what I think it is a growing human movement towards authenticity, invites us out into the light to tell the truth about our lives. As Janet herself demonstrates, that brave truth-telling is not the end of the story. In many ways, it is just the beginning. Much healing and authentic suffering needs to be done as we explore the old wounds and give them the attention they deserve. But in that journey, the burden becomes gradually less heavy, and we are revealed to ourselves. We learn what we are truly put on this beautiful planet to do. Janet was put here to help us heal. She's a minister, life coach, and speaker, and now an author. This book is brave, generous, and wise. It's not easy reading. She, in fact, dares you to read it, then to take up your truth and start down the road to healing. Please take her up on her dare. She's been down that road before you, and with these words, lights your way towards freedom. Tim Madigan. So, my heart is here to open and be with each and every one of you, to be able to stand in your presence as you're awake and you use your gifts to touch each other within this space and outside in the world. You have a unique message to deliver. Each and every one of you do. A unique song to sing, yes. A unique act of love to bestow. This message, this song, and this act of love have been entrusted exclusively to the one and only you. Embrace it, love it, wake up, go out in this world and help heal everybody. Thank you. So in this moment now,